See you now.
Oh, there you are.
Sorry for all the confusion. I'm over here sweating trying to get this thing, together. For some reason, it wasn't working. So,
Oh, no problem.
how's everything going with you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, so far so good. How's everything as far as like Corona and everything? Did it hit you pretty hard?
In Oregon, yeah, the coronavirus. So yeah, and so it did get hit fairly hard, but I mean, not what it was supposed to, and
Hmm.
everything's fine. Everything's kind of opening back up slowly. Portland's still partly closed in some areas, but I have a feeling
Hmm.
now that we understand that it's not
As bad.
really, it's not as bad, and it's not really transferable if you're not symptomatic,
Hmm.
which is what their biggest fear was. Learning that probably it'll open up, but yeah, it's been fine. I'm back in the gym, so
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you. So when did gyms open up for you?
2 weeks ago Friday, yeah,
Okay.
or 3 weeks ago this Friday, I believe.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
Mhm.
So it's like everything's starting to come back to normal, everything like that.
I mean, as normal as it can be with
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
protesting,
Yeah.
rioting,
Yeah, I was gonna
paint.
ask you, did you guys get hit hard by that? Because I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and like we wouldn't have thought we got hit, but we did a little bit, downtown. So.
Well, I live in the capital of Oregon, so and
Hmm.
um, it is a very liberal state. For the most part, only based on the demographic of Portland, Oregon, Eugene, Oregon,
Hmm.
which are the two biggest states, obviously. And so and it's interesting because those two major cities have a lot of more Democrat, liberal type people, and
Hmm.
then everywhere else is kind of more conservative, Republican kind
Hmm.
of uh, people. So it's just been an interesting mix.
Hmm.
Uh, they were sending people. Portland is really bad right now, like
Yeah.
really bad. Seattle's really bad, which is 3 hours from me north.
Hmm.
Salem wasn't as bad. I guess some of the Antifa people were bussed in to do
Hmm.
damage downtown, but a lot of the good old boys went down there and lined up the streets,
Hmm.
just making sure that nothing got destroyed, and they
Yeah.
did a great job. Salem police were so phenomenal. Like
Yeah.
they did a really great job, and nothing was really. They did for like 3 nights. They attempted 3 nights,
Hmm.
and they realized they weren't going to get anywhere here, so
Yeah.
they moved on up to Portland, and now they're
Started
just
doing
trying.
some stuff there. Yeah, it's crazy how things are getting. It seems like we're getting hit. We're getting hit like bad this year with everything. First it was the coronavirus. Now it's this. I'm um, I'm originally from Russia, and so like I was about 2 or 3 when Chernobyl blew up. I don't know if you're aware of what Chernobyl is. That nuclear power plant.
Right.
And so now I read that there's forest fires in the area where it's quarantined, and
Yeah.
it's bringing up all the radiation like that was kind of settled now because of the fire. It's like putting it back in the air. It's insane, you
Oh,
know, insane stuff, insane stuff. World's on
the
fire,
crazy.
Angel.
It
Literally.
is, but I mean, one of my favorite things is like the only real certainty is that nothing ever stays the same. It just
Right,
can't. So,
right.
in some years, change is just more impactful and crazy than others. And I guess this
Sure,
is one of those really turning point kind of years. And
sure,
eventually, we're going to find out why. We're going to see the result of whatever it's
sure,
starting today. So, I mean, you just unfortunately got to roll with it,
sure.
go with it peacefully, but
Yeah, of course.
most
That's
people don't
that's
feel
the
that.
key, right?
Eh,
So,
yeah.
so how did you, more onto like the fitness subject? How did you get into fitness? Were your family into training? Like, how did you first initially get into it?
No, no, my family's definitely not into it, which brings me why I'm into it. My parents were definitely not really athletes. They were not sports advocates, really. They didn't really promote sports, and they didn't watch sports on TV. Just not
Yeah.
super active people that way.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, no. So my story starts about 10 years old, and I started a eating disorder called anorexia, which I'm sure
Hmm.
you've heard of before.
Right.
At 10 years old is when I started with
Wow.
that, and by the time I was 15, um, I was about 80 pounds and really, really sick. And my mom,
That's
I
wow.
hid it well from my parents. They found me on the floor in the bathroom with no clothes on. I was getting ready to take a shower, and apparently the water was running for a long time. And mom came in, and I was unconscious on the floor. So that's how they discovered, because I wore baggy clothes and what have you. But so they didn't really know. A lot of people knew I was sick or something was wrong with me,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't even know what I was doing. It's not like I was making a conscious decision. I'm anorexic. You know what I mean? I
Right,
just,
right, right.
it didn't go like that. So anyways, yeah, so then my parents took me, obviously by ambulance, to the hospital, and I stayed there for a little bit. And, of course, they looked into like neglect and abuse and all that stuff, and,
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff that they have to do. And, then they were like, yeah, she's battling an eating disorder, and, started counseling and all kinds of stuff. It was just a really long road as far as that goes. Probably I didn't really get too much better until I was about 17. Um,
How
and
did
so the doctors
I was gonna ask you
told my parents,
I was gonna ask you, how did you like how did you first, I guess you said it wasn't like a conscious decision, but how did you like move into that sphere, that wheelhouse of anorexia? Was it something that triggered it? Was like their feelings or like emotions involved with that?
absolutely, yeah. So basically, if you read, and of course I read in and out about this stuff, and I studied it after, I got
Hmm.
better and what have you. And so, which is why I do what I do. I do train a lot of bodybuilders, but I'm also a huge advocate for self-love and
Hmm.
empowerment of women, and loving yourself as you are and stuff. So, which is a great opportunity for me to do things like this to get my message out. But so really, any eating disorder is never really about the food or your body image as much as it is a battle for control. So for me, my mother was very, 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 very controlling and overbearing and
Hmm.
strict, and just very reactionary. And so I felt very like bound and
Hmm.
tied. You know what I mean? I just no real breathing room for anything. And so that was my battle for control. And so she couldn't control that. So that's what I'm going to control, type thing. So that's basically learning later. Of course, I didn't consciously think that way when I started it, but that's just a subconscious reaction for some people. And the statistics of young women that do get eating disorders and suffer from that are, high achieving middle class girls.
Hmm.
So it's typically most of the girls that suffer from it are in that category, which I was.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it was about, was control. So
Did your mother realize that at some point, that was the reason behind it, or you never let her know that?
we it's so funny you should say that. So we had um, I never blamed my mom,
Hmm.
as I feel like every parenting is, you learn things, what to and what not to do as a parent from what you've been raised around.
Hmm.
So she did the best she could. She loved me, very much. She just, had her own things from her childhood that she was bringing into being a parent. So
Yeah.
she was scared of everything because she grew up a certain way. So she tried to protect me. So
Hmm.
it was never a malicious thing. So how could I be mad?
Yeah.
So I never really was upset with her for it or blamed her. I feel like that's a victim mentality, and I refuse to live in that. So I used what I went through for what I'm doing now, right? So
Hmm.
I just had to sit down with her on Mother's Day this year, and we had to sit down and basically, you know, talked it out. This had talked
Yeah.
about a lot of things, and she didn't know who I am anymore. Who She doesn't like the bodybuilding thing. She thinks it's gross. She doesn't
Hmm.
understand it. And we've been kind of butting heads for several years, and so finally we had to sit down, and it was great. And I told her everything that I felt, and who I am now, why I do the things, and she has a hugely better understanding of who I am and why.
Hmm.
And now, where she thought, oh, that's gross. Why do you want to look like that? You guys look like men. And
Hmm.
it's just obsessive, to now she's like, that's really interesting. Wow,
Hmm.
I have a better
Yeah.
appreciation for what we're doing and why. So it was good. It was a long time coming,
Hmm.
but I
If
wasn't sure that it was ever going to happen, but it did.
Well, I mean, that's great. At least at some point, it would be nice if it happened earlier, but sometime, it's better than no time. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
Things
what,
happen just as they're supposed to.
what about was your father in your life as well?
So I don't know my real father, but
Mm,
my stepdad, he and my mom were married when I was 4 or 5,
mhm,
and it's the only daddy I know. And
mhm,
he stepped up, and they didn't have kids together, but I have a brother, and he raised me and my brother like we were his, and
mhm,
I always forgot that I wasn't his biological daughter. So
mhm,
yeah, he's a great man. Really respect my dad.
mhm. So how was he with regard to all this? Like, as far as your anorexia, your bodybuilding, like you said, your mother, you kind of gave your viewpoint of what your mother thought. What about him?
Mhm. Dad, um, there was a pivotal moment the day I can tell you right now, the day I decided to go ahead and try to fight to live, because the doctors told my parents that I was dying, that
Mhm,
I didn't have a will to live. I pretty much just didn't want to do it anymore. That I was not progressing, that I was going the opposite way despite a couple of years of counseling. And I think it was the first time I saw my dad cry.
mhm,
And yeah, that was the moment that I saw my dad like that, and I just was like, I made a conscious decision that day that I didn't think I wanted to die. So
mhm.
I worked on it. And yeah, my dad, it just hurt my dad a lot because he felt like he didn't know what to do, how to
Right.
handle it, how to speak to me, how to reach me.
Sure.
So yeah, he suffered a lot through that. Like it broke his heart, but you know,
Yeah.
but it was also,
It's interesting because it's like if it's something physical, like you can easily fix it because you can see it. But if it's something like mental or emotional, it's very tough to navigate. And then you're also talking about dealing with like a younger girl, with a lot of things going on emotionally, mentally. It's tough for anyone, but especially like a father to be able to, navigate through that. So,
yeah, as far as the bodybuilding, he always found it to be interesting, going from the weakest possible place you can be in life to being an IFBB pro,
mhm.
um, the epitome of what fit looks like,
Right,
right?
right.
So I think my dad had a really, in my work ethic and my passion for it, I think he respected. He didn't quite understand it,
Mhm.
but he respected it and found it fascinating. And then I started getting, a lot of sponsors and different things and traveling. And he was, wow, yeah, he was very interested. Mom didn't want to hear about it because she didn't like it or get it, but dad was definitely interested to understand it. So
Right. So when you say bodybuilding, like what division? I was trying to look really quick, but like what division are you in? Are you in female bodybuilding or another division?
I'm just a step below that. So they took out women's bodybuilding for a
Hmm.
while in the IFBB, and they replaced it with women's physique, which is where I turned pro, and
Hmm.
the division that I compete at is women's physique. Well, now
Okay.
they've brought the female bodybuilding back in, so technically I'm not a female bodybuilder at this point. I'm women's physique
Right.
competitor.
Mhm. Have you thought about moving up, or are you going to stay at physique?
I'm 43 on Tuesday, a week from
Oh,
today,
couldn't
and
tell.
thank you. So for me, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Hmm.
Uh, I've been on the stage for over 20 years. And I think for me, I just think at this age, I'm not interested in going that extra step.
Hmm.
That involves a lot of other things that I just don't want to, it's harder on the joints at this age.
Hmm.
It's difficult for a woman to achieve that level of size. And I'm not really willing to do some of the things I think that it's to
So
get there.
say like PEDs, you don't want to take that many PEDs. The
Yeah, I think so. And and the other part of it is too that I used to not be opposed to it, but now it's like for me, I'm really, really promoting the feminine aspect of the
Mm,
sport. Not to say that those other women at that size are not feminine. I've just found my comfort zone here.
sure.
I promote myself very well at this size, and I'm still 5'5" at 180. That's a big girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I do a fairly decent job, I think, of promoting that really feminine aspect that you can do
Hmm.
both.
Sure. Sure.
And I'm happy with where I am now. I'm
Hmm.
really at a comfortable place. I will retire from stage here within a year or two.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'll probably come down a little bit even and go back to more of a fitness model size. Like I was really happy around 165.
Hmm. So, I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, that's not that much of a difference. I mean, what are we talking like 15 pounds, from 165 to where you are now? So, I mean, it's definitely, achievable. It's just,
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess it's just where you want to be at what point in life
Yeah.
you want to be there. Like I'm 35, and I was thinking, I'm like, I'm 265, and I'm like, I would really like to be down like 20, 30 pounds just for, I'm going to be in my 40s soon.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't want that, like you said, that weight on the joints. Now I'm thinking more of like longevity, not so much how big I can get, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I got. And I used to lift, man, I was crazy in that gym.
Mhm.
The men would ask me for advice. The men would be like, "Man," like I would lift more than almost every man in there. And I'm still very, very strong. I just lift smarter now.
Sure,
You know,
sure,
I lift much
sure.
smarter at this age. I'm very lucky. I haven't had major, major injuries. I used to squat over 300 pounds with no belt, not even one time, like
Hmm.
crazy stuff that I would
Yeah.
never advocate to my athletes and my clients, but I did it. And I'm like, yeah, no, I need to stop right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It only takes one time, especially like with
one time.
having to do with your back and stuff like that, squats and presses and all that. One wrong move and it's going to be a
Yeah.
problem. So you were saying that at 17 you kind of like stopped that disease in its tracks, right? Like the anorexia.
No,
That
I
was that.
didn't I didn't stop it in its tracks. That's pretty much when I started coming up out of it and started working
Oh,
on
I
taking
see.
the steps. Yeah, because when I was in counseling since the age of 15 and stuff, I wasn't very receptive.
Hmm.
I would sit there every week, sometimes twice a week, and I just really wasn't receptive to anything they were saying. I just didn't care anymore. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I kind of just gave up, and I was just I was present, but I wasn't present. So actively involved with the therapy and actively working on yeah healing my body and my mind and getting to a healthier place all the way around.
Yeah.
17 was when that happened, and it was really was until I was married for 13 years. I met my ex-husband when I was turned 19, and by the time I was 20, I was pregnant with my first child,
Hmm.
and I still kind of on and off battled with the mental part of it. Wasn't near where I was, but really the day that I completely was just like, no, like this ends here is the day she was born. I didn't know if it was a boy or girl, and I just figured it was a boy. My ex-husband had all brothers; he had a bunch of them, but no sisters, and I just figured it was a boy.
Hmm.
And then the day I gave birth, and they were like, "Oh, it's a girl," like literally at that moment, I'm like, "It's a girl." Like I am responsible. I'm like this child's role model. This little girl's gonna look up to me and follow my tracks probably. And because I know my mom used to starve herself when she wanted to lose weight. She never exercised, so that's kind of where I picked that up.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, oh no, this stops here. So literally, after I got home, I joined the gym for the first time after
Mm.
having my first child. So that's when I first joined the gym and started educating myself. And so all my kids grew up in a household understanding, choices in foods and exercise and the
Mhm.
importance of all of that stuff. So
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like how people do it, right? Like not so much anymore, I don't think, because social media has kind of put the fitness world to a different level. I would
yeah,
think, I don't know.
yeah,
But back in the day, like the people when girls wanted to lose weight, anybody, but mainly like I'm thinking of women, they would just not eat, like that
restrict
was
calories. It was
right.
calories, calories, calories. Restrict your calories, restrict your calories. Yeah.
And then it would just here's the thing about that. It's like people always say, "Oh, well, that person like looks good because they're not like overweight or they don't have that much weight on them." But then when they like go to a beach, it's like it doesn't look good, and that's because they're not like they're restricting calories, but their body isn't change like their body isn't improving. It's just getting smaller because you're not feeding it. That's
It's called skinny people fat. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, skinny fat.
their,
That's
their frame is smaller because
hmm
their body is eating muscle, but then
right,
that's stored with fat. So
right,
now you have a soft, smaller body
right,
versus a slender, leaner look. And
right.
obviously, now that we're more aware as a culture
Hmm.
and fitness is kind of a big thing right now,
Yeah,
that's what we want, right? We don't
yeah.
want to restrict calories. We want to have input versus output of energy source and a leaner, more, toned frame.
Hmm. Hmm. And like, at what point did you decide? So, like, when you had your child, you said that you were like, that's when you started kind of like really focusing on, being fit and all that. At what point did it go from just focusing on being fit to actually stepping on stage?
So let's see here. That was right after my second child. So my first two daughters were very, very close. I was really active in the gym every single day. My kids, all three of them grew up in the gym daycare. They'd never been to daycare other than the gym daycare. That was their social time, and that was mom's time, right? Because I was a
That's
stay-at-home
funny.
mom at the time. And so after my second child, and they're only 18 or 19 months apart. And so that whole time, even through the pregnancy, I was pretty active.
Mhm.
And then after my second child was born, probably she was 6, 7 months old. Um, there was a brand new division called Figure,
Mhm.
and nobody really knew what that was yet. It was just kind of like, we're going to do a one piece and a two piece. Then at that time in the year 2000, 2001, really you had two choices of female. You could either be a female bodybuilder or you could be a fitness competitor. Well, fitness competitors do splits, they do
Mhm.
acrobats, dance moves, but they didn't want to be big, like bigger and more muscular like the bodybuilders, but they still wanted an outlet to do this. So you had 30, 40, 50 of these girls up there, no rhythm, really shouldn't be up there.
Right.
But
That's
they
a
still,
very, I mean, that's a scary thing to do. If those are your only two divisions and you don't want to
yeah,
be big, that's like gymnastics. I mean, imagine just
yes.
going straight into gymnastics.
Right. And when I say no business, I just mean that there were people that have a background in gymnastics
Hmm.
and what have you. And obviously some people were just, starting out. So there was no comparison. And
Right.
so don't get me wrong, like I had no business up there. I'm
Sure.
just saying it was just like there should have been another division, which was why they created
Yeah.
Figure, right?
Hmm.
So I was in the first Figure ever here in Oregon. That's where I started. So I was contacted by Susan Smith, who's the local chairwoman for the NPC here. And my ex brother-in-law was a junior bodybuilder. And so that's how I came to know her. But she's
Hmm.
like, you should try this. We've only got 3 girls signed up. It's in 2 weeks. And I just think you'd be great. And I was like, I don't even know what to do. Like posing, suits, all that stuff, a one piece velour. Like, how does this? So I did it. And I think I placed third out of 5 or 6, which was decent. I
Hmm.
was just learning. Nobody really knew
Right.
what it was supposed to be.
Right.
Nobody understood the poses so it was interesting. It was interesting. And then I just fell in love with it from that
Hmm.
moment. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's amazing to see how like Figure has grown now. So, so much. It's like from that to this now, Figure's a huge division. And so, so when you were doing that, like, were you doing that for many years and then you went into physique, or how did you progress?
So yeah, so I did that a couple times that year, and then I was on stage, I think my third show, and I think there was 12 or 13 girls, and I did well. I was progressing, and back then the figure girls did not look like the figure girls now. We looked smaller than some of the bikini girls. It was
Hmm.
totally different. Um, but I still placed like third or fourth out of 12 or 13. But just felt like I was retaining water, and I found out I was 3 months pregnant with my son,
Oh,
and I
wow.
did not know. So yeah, so then had major complications with that
Mm.
pregnancy, preterm labor, in the hospital a lot, contracted the whole pregnancy, bed rest, and I gained quite a bit of weight. Obviously, back then everybody did no carbs and 2 hours of cardio. Doesn't matter who
Hmm.
you were. It was
Right.
just kind of, that's the bro science. That's just what you do, right? So everybody kind of did that. And so I went from that to bed rest. So my body didn't take too kindly to it, and I gained a bunch of weight with him. And he held out to like, only a month early, and, had him. And so then I had a lot of work cut out for me because then I had put on a lot of weight. And but I did it every single morning, 5 a.m. I ran down on the treadmill, and I did with 3 little ones. Like, mind you, none of them were over 3.
Wow.
And I did it within 9 months. I went from 204 pounds back on stage at 112 or 15. And I was back.
204 pounds.
Yes.
That's a lot of weight to lose. So how did you do it? Just cardio and just dieting, or
Lifting, diet, very
just
strict on my
everything?
diet. Yep, everything. And, you know, of course, the kids running around after the kids keep you active.
Right.
And of course, I was nursing my son, so you're going to lose a lot of weight from that alone.
Hmm.
And so it's a combination of things, and just a will to not be that housewife that's like, well, I just gained a lot of weight from my pregnancy and I just can't get rid of it. No, you can. It just has to be a priority.
I
So
was going to ask you, do you feel like the complications with your son, did they come from the dieting aspect of the sport?
yeah,
Is that, so you think that had direct effect on it?
yeah, my body fat was pretty low. They were
Hmm.
surprised I even got pregnant.
Oh,
To
wow.
be
Okay.
so yeah, my body fat was pretty low. So they didn't even expect that I would be pregnant because when you know they're like, I doubt it. You probably weren't ovulating, or probably your body fat was because
Hmm.
I didn't have a period at the time or whatever. So yeah, but you know it is what it is. And I got 3 awesome kids who are officially now adults. My son just turned 8, so he's leaving
Congratulations.
for boot camp Tuesday.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah. So they're all successfully grown and
Awesome.
doing good things. So man, I don't regret a minute of it.
That's good. That's good. So, and then when you progressed to physique, when was that? Recently or?
No, so I did that for a few years, and then my ex-husband, I was married, he hated it. He couldn't stand it. He didn't even like me at the gym. Obviously, that wasn't a real successful relationship. It ended. So, he's cool as hell now. You know, we're fine. We've done a
Mm-hmm.
great job raising our kids or whatever. But you know, we were both really young. So I ended up leaving that marriage in 2008, and I lived sort of out in the country, very kind of like redneckville, if you will. And I don't like to use that stereotype, but I mean, it was just very, you know, a lot of farmers, a lot of good old boys, a lot of drinking beer on the tailgate kind of people,
Uh-huh.
which I love. You know, I just love it. But I moved back to where I came from, more city, and accidentally, and I was 30 in my 30s, early 30s at the time. But I was always told you should do a lot of modeling, you should do modeling. But I was a mom, I was married,
Mm-hmm.
I was, you know, I was doing that. And I accidentally fell into mainstream modeling. I got picked up by an agency and photo shoots left and right. I even did runway modeling. And
Oh,
so they're like,
wow.
yeah, so they're like, you need to be this size. And back then it was very important that you stay within this size to get work.
Yeah.
And so kind of, you know, they're like, I wasn't super muscular, but more muscular than they wanted me to be for that. So I was like, I'll give it a try, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I stepped down from the bodybuilding platform and all that. And I kind of tried that out for a few years, and I was okay at it. I just feel, I didn't feel very rewarded from the work. You know, I didn't feel like I was doing anything significant to change the world, or I didn't feel like I was doing myself any justice.
Mm-hmm. Was
Okay.
that, let me ask you this, a more superficial question. In that kind of work, unless you're extremely famous, is there any kind of money in it?
If you're really good at promoting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
if you, yeah, I mean there can be, yeah,
There
because
can be.
I was part of lifestyle, I'm sorry, Sports Unlimited Lifestyle, and they do a lot of commercials. They do,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can absolutely get a lot of work, but they wanted me to stay a certain size, and I don't know, I just really missed the fitness stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I wasn't, I mean, I could do cardio, but they didn't want me to have any real muscle tone.
Mm-hmm.
And I just missed it. So I did that for 3 or 4 years, and I was like, you know, this is not it. This isn't what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing with my journey, because I went through all of this stuff, and it sure wasn't to take some pretty pictures, you know. So
Yeah.
I started getting back into the fitness slowly but surely, and got into bikini because bikini had just started. So I
Oh, wow.
started, my
Okay.
first show back was bikini in 2011, I believe, 2012. So I started there because I was pretty small. I was wearing little girls' clothes. I was wearing like a size 12, 14 when I was modeling. And so I started back into the gym and kind of slowly rebuilding. Started with bikini for a couple of years and did decently, top 5, you know, top 3 usually. And then, but my legs grew very quickly. And it was not what they were looking for. So, and my back and my legs were crazy. So they were like, my coach at the time was like, threw me into figure the day, like at the show. Well, try this too, try this too. And I won that. I was
Wow.
second in bikini and I won figure. And I hadn't worked on my shoulders, or I was very disproportionate legs to upper body, but I still won.
Mm-hmm.
And so then from there, I did figure again the next year. And then the next show I did, they're like, you need to try this new physique thing. You're too big for figure. I was like, what? I just got into figure. And so then I
And
tried it.
what year was
I did
this?
That was 2013, 2014.
2013, 14. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I really didn't know a lot of the poses or anything for women's physique, but I did it and I won that at
Hmm.
the Emerald Cup, which is the largest amateur show in the nation.
Wow.
And I won that, but I did, and I thought I was going to win figure, and I didn't even place top 10.
Hmm.
And so it was crazy for me. And so there, literally, that was my first physique show, and 6 months later, I went and turned pro in it.
Wow. So, I mean, you're very
Yeah.
successful in physique almost immediately.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what do you think about the fact that everybody, seems to be getting bigger? Like all the divisions seem to be getting bigger. Like you said, the bikini now are like figure was back then, and so forth. Like what's your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I love muscle. I love muscle, period. I think it's very confusing. I think it's very confusing as a coach to know what to go, it
Hmm.
started off one thing and now it's another, and then switching divisions, adding division. I really like the new wellness. I love the wellness category. I think that's going to be probably one
Hmm.
of the most, probably the big category that, to be honest with you, but it'll definitely bridge that gap between some people that really have a hard time with upper body.
Yeah.
I think it's confusing and I think it's difficult. And I can tell you that I've done a lot of comparisons, and the female bodybuilders on the Olympia stage around 1994, 1995, 1993, and the women's physique winners the last 2 years at the Olympia, the top five consistently, women's physique girls now are bigger and harder and more conditioned than the bodybuilders were in the 90s.
Oh wow.
So that's
Okay.
confusing, as it wasn't
Yeah.
supposed to be. So it can be confusing when you get into the sport as one thing and as one look, and now you have to step up and do more. It makes it more competitive. It makes you work harder. It makes you have to really stay on your game. But it's also like, if that's not what you signed up for when you got into the division, it makes you have to make a decision. So do I want to do what it takes to get bigger? Do I want to get bigger?
Right.
Or do I step down, or
Well,
what?
I imagine also it's difficult because you make most of your gains in the off season, so you're
Mm-hmm.
basing your off season upon the previous year's
Yes.
champion or top five, whatever. So now you're gunning for that look, and then the next year a different look wins, and then you're like, okay, so what? So what do I do now? Do I
Yeah.
keep this look? Do I try to go for the look that just got rewarded? Yeah, I guess it would be difficult. But I do agree with you about wellness. I really think wellness is probably going to be like your top like female division as far as popularity very
Mhm.
soon. Like, because it's already so big in like the Hispanic countries, and it's like it's taken a lot like by storm in Europe as well. So it's like sooner or later it was going to come here, and I think that's exactly going to
Oh,
happen.
I'm happy about it. I have a lot of clients that really had really big legs, and they
Hmm.
needed to do figure, couldn't do bikini, but their upper body just was
Right.
disproportionate, and it's very stubborn. I mean, I suffer from the same thing. My back is crazy, but my
Hmm.
arms don't like to cooperate, man.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time there. I mean, I could have done wellness had I been started. I think I would have been really good in wellness.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
now I've really developed a back that really can't go backward. My chest is pretty developed. So,
Sure.
you know, I don't really want to go backward for that, but I
Yeah.
could have started out. I could have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, but now you can propel other women to win those divisions. So,
Absolutely, and that's really what this is about for me at this
mhm,
point. I've done more than I ever set out to do in this industry. I never set out when I started to turn pro or whatever. I just was to challenge myself, and really through this, I've figured out, like, okay, so I first started it to educate myself and to make myself better and to learn about nutrition, and then keep myself constantly growing as a person. And then through that, it just turned into my purpose and my calling, and it was
mhm,
never about me. That was just kind of the vessel to get me a following, to be able to help other people and serve other people and teach them about my experiences and about health, nutrition, and eating disorders and self-love and mental health awareness and all that stuff. So my job, as far as the stage, as far as I'm concerned, is not even about me anymore. I've
right,
accomplished more than I set out to do. So
right. During
yeah.
that transitional period in your life where like, you see like players become coaches and whatever, that kind of thing. So, do you still, how can I put this in a way that would be appropriate? Do you still deal with like the issues that you dealt with when you had anorexia, as far as
No,
like not at all?
absolutely,
And,
absolutely not.
and do you accredit that to the fitness way of life?
Well, yes, in a way, but it starts with the mind first.
Hmm.
You can't accomplish anything without the mind. And so when you train the mind to accept this, I had a really difficult time with the off season and having to get bigger and growing for the first several years I did the sport.
Hmm.
I battled with it. I battled with it. And then when I finally started understanding, okay, this is just science of it. I have to do this to get here. And I had to let that go. So it was a battle of the mind of myself, right? And so
Yeah.
once I did that, I started seeing changes like crazy once I let go of that control of the food aspect and my thought process about food. So really started with the mind. And yeah.
Were
So
you
once I did that,
were you worried? Like, was that like when you were eating? Are you nervous or anxious about all?
getting
Yeah. Go
physically
ahead.
bigger, like my body's
Hmm.
growing, I'm getting fat, or
Hmm.
that's a lot of food, I can't eat, I'm going to get fat. And it's like, no, the science is you have to eat X amount plus a surplus to put on the muscle, to speed up your metabolism, to make a more efficient body. And it doesn't make sense. We were always told restrict calories, restrict calories. You know what I mean? So l- switching to that mindset of science and the body and how it works and metabolism, it took me a while to really grasp
Yeah.
it. And when I started seeing those changes, well, I went all in.
Like, let's say you're talking to someone who's dealing with anorexia, and I get, like I said, I mean, we normally think of women dealing with it, but it could be a guy as well. It
Oh, yeah,
happens.
well, men do too. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
body
like,
dysmorphia.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Body dysmorphia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. What would be like your first and best advice, like you would say, if someone told you, hey, I'm dealing with the, anorexia? Like, what would you
I
tell
would
them?
say the same thing that I would tell somebody who was sitting down in my office telling me that they want to lose 15 pounds. You got to be tired of your own shit. You got to be
Hmm.
tired of living this way. You got to be tired of your own shit. You
Hmm.
got to be tired of your own mental games. You've got to be ready for change.
Hmm.
If you're not ready for change, nothing I'm going to say to you is going to make it better.
Right.
You got to be done.
Isn't that like usually the case with people? I've knew somebody who was an alcoholic, and for
It's the same thing as
years,
addiction. Yeah.
yeah, for years he's been an alcoholic, and no matter how many friends and family would tell him, would ask him, would beg him, it was still the same way. And then until one day, to us appears for no reason, but I'm sure he had reason. He just
Oh,
stopped.
years of battle.
He just
I was
stopped.
married to an alcoholic. Yeah.
Hmm.
Years they battle themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
same
there you
thing.
go.
It's addictive personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was saying that to say that, like, the individual I'm talking about just got, I guess he got tired of it, got hit rock bottom, whatever it was. And I would
Mhm.
have thought, looking at him, he would have hit rock bottom a long time ago. But I guess to him that wasn't rock bottom yet. And at some point he decided that was enough. Enough was enough, and he completely stopped drinking. Almost,
Mhm.
almost like that. I mean, it was switch almost went off. So.
It's a very personal
Mhm.
thing, and you never know what's going to cause it. You never know when it's coming. It literally, you could have a dream, wake up that next morning, and be like, I saw my life in a different vision, or
Yeah,
I had a dream that I hit some kid drinking and driving,
yeah,
and it literally could be that simple. And you'd be like, I'm tired of my own shit.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to change.
What
Yeah.
about, like, if you're a parent? How do you, and I know you didn't have to deal with that as a parent, but how would
Well, I did.
would you
I
do?
did. I did
Okay.
have to.
Oh, okay. I'm
My
sorry. I
my
didn't.
daughter went through it very, very briefly,
Mhm.
but being that I'm so educated in it, I mean, I think that I did help her before it got too bad. And hers was, had a lot to do with the divorce and, just different things.
Right.
It was sparked by something different. And it was a very small amount of time, and we got it under control. And,
Mhm.
I had a reminder of her self-worth and what happens to the body, and educating her what happens internally, and reminding her that I had gout, that I had reconstructive dental surgery, that I lived with a heart monitor. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because of those actions at 13, 14 years
Yeah.
old. letting her remember my reality, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And not, it doesn't just affect you right now.
Yeah.
It could be long term. So, it wasn't very long. But my advice probably is, when you understand that it's a battle for control, being in their face all the time, telling them you have to do this, you're doing this, you got to eat this, wrong
Doesn't
way.
work.
Nope, because it's a battle of control, and they're just
Hmm.
going to rebel, just like the teenager that you say, if you go to your boyfriend's house, you're grounded. Well, the first thing they're going to do is go to their boyfriend's house
Hmm. Yeah.
because you're telling them not to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've got to handle it very gently, and I am definitely a fan and encourage a counselor, somebody who's educated in
Hmm.
specifically eating disorders. Um,
Yeah.
that's probably the first step, because it starts with the mind.
So I mean, I think you've already mentioned it, but it's like it's a symptom of a bigger issue. So you kind of
Yes.
have to get down to the bigger issue.
Yeah,
Yeah, what it looks like.
alcoholics don't drink because they like the taste of beer. That's not,
Hmm.
when they first drink beer, they don't say, "This is delicious."
Hmm.
It's not about that. It's
Yeah.
never delicious. Your first beer is never delicious.
I remember my first beer. It was terrible. It was
Right.
terrible.
But it's the addictive tendency, the addictive
Hmm.
personality,
Yeah.
and it's a deep-rooted issue somewhere that they're trying to mask the pain.
Yeah.
And we know that. So it's like it makes you not be able to feel whatever you're feeling, right? It kind of,
Yeah.
it numbs you a little
Right.
bit, and that's what they do. And it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing with eating disorder. You
Yeah.
know,
There's just another way of escaping, I guess, the
yeah,
situation that you're in,
yeah. I
the
mean,
feelings that
it's
you're having.
anorexia, not as much bulimia, but anorexia is very much it's a way to slowly kill yourself. Yeah.
So specifically anorexia, just for those who don't know, but I think most people would probably know. Can you like, is it just basically not eating, like just?
Yeah, usually it's not eating. I mean, a typical day for me when I was at my worst was about a quarter piece of bread per day
Oh
and a
man.
couple of glasses of water. And yeah, I was not well. Like I said, I
Yeah.
had gout in my feet at 14. I had reconstructive dental surgery where my gums were eating them, or my body was eating my gums for nutrition, and so
Mm.
my teeth were about to fall out. I had to have grafting from the roof of my mouth taken out and put in all through the gums of my teeth to keep my teeth in.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so I mean, it was bad. And these
Yeah.
are just
Yeah.
a
That's
little bit of
terrible.
the, yeah, at 14, 15.
Yeah.
So,
And you said you also are dealing with a heart monitor is what you mentioned?
yeah, I had to wear heart monitors off and on just to check and make sure
You got,
that my
oh, I got you.
that's
Okay.
what your heart can slow. Just different things can happen and
Yeah.
cause a lot of heart arrhythmia. And I was, so I would faint daily. I would, if
Hmm.
I got up too fast, I had low blood pressure.
Hmm.
Um, it was nothing for me to, I didn't go to school a lot because I really couldn't open doors. I didn't have the strength to, if I was at a
Do
mall, I couldn't,
anything. Yeah.
I couldn't open the door.
Yeah, that's I mean, you want to talk about level of weakness. The not being able to open the door is
Hmm.
about as bad as you can get.
Yeah. But that's why, if you look at me now, I'm, kind of, other people look at me and be like, that's the epitome of what strength looks like.
Hmm.
And that was what I decided one day. I made up my mind. I'm like, not only am I going to get healthy, but I'm going to go and be the most strong minded and strong bodied person I can be. And it was literally like, you just make a decision and say, this is what it's going to be, and you do it. And that's what I did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hey, I'm glad that you did. Then now you're here with us instead of, you know,
Yeah.
having some even more negative consequences. So at this point, I guess when you're so you've got a few years left, you said, right, till you retire. Like what's the goal at this point for you?
Okay, so I haven't been on a women's physique stage for 3 years. So
Hmm.
supposedly it's a possibility, with everything going on, we don't know.
Right.
Possibly November this year. If not, it'll be early spring.
Hmm.
It'll be my first time on stage of the women's physique in 3 years, 4 years
Okay.
maybe. Um, and just see where I fare with the new look, the going look
Hmm.
now. I've made a lot of progress. I've made a lot of changes to my body. So we'll see. And depending upon how I look, comparatively speaking, I mean, my pro debut, I got top 5, which was a huge feat
Right.
for me. I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
Very elated. So if I can get back in that top 5, top 6, I'll probably do a couple more shows and maybe try to see if I could even possibly get enough Olympia points. But if I kind of like am just not looking the way the going look is, how far do I have to go to get there? I might just say, I have had a really good run. Like, I don't desire to do more size or whatever it is. So I'm going to make that decision based on how I do it at the first show.
Do you think that you could, so I know you immediately went like into the mode of points. Could you plan a show in such a way where you could win the show? Like, is your
Well,
physique at that level?
that's always the plan.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah, of
being in the
course.
top 5, yeah, but being in the top 5 allows you to get points. So if I'm in the top 5, then I get points toward the Olympia. If I do fair in the top 5, that means I could do a second show and I could win it with some small adjustments.
Gotcha.
Or I could get, let's say I get 4th place and I get 2 points or 3 points. Let's say, wow, I just need to tweak a couple of things. I could go to the next show and win it. That means that I'm at the top 5 level, which means that I'm pretty close to being able to do the Olympia.
Right. So you'll gauge yourself based upon your first show and then just make adjustments at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think about Shanique Grant? Do you think like anybody's going to knock her off anytime soon?
Shanique Grant is unparalleled. There really isn't body types that she's a freak of nature. She's like a cartoon.
Yeah. It's unreal how she looks, right? It's like,
and it's very difficult to be judged against her because she is so small in the torso. Most of us who have understood getting bigger, especially through the lats, our waist is expanded now. You know what I mean? We aren't going to have that taper like she has. And she's incredible. She's incredibly God-gifted physique. You just can't stop staring at her. She's that incredible. Standing next to her is impossible. I don't see anybody beating her. But at the same time, it's like, say, as a judge, they're supposed to say, okay, well, you can't judge anybody after that because there's nobody like that.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And she's so young too. So if it's like, if she was on like, who was the champion before her? Like, I think she's Brazilian. I can't remember.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Mello, is it? Who did you say? I'm sorry. Did you say?
Yeah, she's Brazilian. Yeah, she's Brazilian.
Yeah, and so she was winning and she was incredible, but she was kind of on the older end. So it's like you knew that, well, at some point she's going to step off. Well, Shanique is very young, so she could be there for another like 15, 20 years, competing.
Yeah, so some people get just kind of like, okay, well, I did that, and they get burned out on the lifestyle. Yeah, it's very obsessive to do this. You have to be obsessed.
Yeah, especially at the top, right? Like to always come in the best, Very true. Well, hey, thanks for coming on the show. I greatly appreciate it. Let me give you a moment. Like, so do you, I know you're involved with a lot of things. And as far as like, if someone wanted to contact you or if you have a website or what's the best way to,
So my website is actually in construction right now. I'm completely redoing my mission is actually going to be geared toward a lot of women's empowerment as well as online training. And so that's being redone right now. Like my whole Instagram, everything is kind of redirecting less toward bodybuilding and more toward women empowerment and self-love and just training. I do deal with bodybuilders mostly, but I'd also like to take on a little bit more women who just want to feel better about themselves mentally and overall. So that's being reconstructed, but my Instagram is ms.angelstar _ IFBB Pro. And I have a fan, I guess if you call it a fan page on Facebook, Angel Starr IFBB Pro. And inbox me there. It's probably the best places right now. My website should be done within a month or 2.
Okay. Do you, so what I'll do is when I put this up, we'll tag everything and we'll in YouTube and we'll put everything down, any kind of contact info so people can just go right to your, to your page, to your Instagram, whatever to reach you. So, all right.
All right. Great.
Hey, well, again, thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure. You go have a great time the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.